and I believe friend to life, and Mark, and I'm very sorry to ask you these questions, and I feel, even the first time we met, very unpleasant about that, but this is a part of my trial to explain and to people that have skepticism about all these things, all this trauma. How you describe this trauma that happened to you? How they've been working and experimentizing on you? What is the size they've been using? Can you give us some more guideline on that?
On how they perform different...
How they perform different trauma on you from the beginning?
There was sleep, food, and water deprivation that usually occurred for 3 days prior to any particular programming session or any particular operation that I had to carry out. The water deprivation was especially difficult, especially in the Caribbean or any hot places.
Which places, when you talk about that, if you'd be so kind, I know that you have a problem with remembering everything, but just tell us which places you're referring to.
In the Caribbean?
Yes.
Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. There was what was called an out island for NCL. It's a small, remote island, not too far from the Bahamas and not too far from Key West. This little island was really the most active drug operation. I saw Noriega at that island. It's also got the radio control towers for airplanes for the drug operations. It's got radio control for the ships, so that if there was anything really significant going on a different island, they could actually detour the ship for whatever reason, excuse they gave, bad weather, whatever, to go to those other islands, because the main purpose of NCL was the CIA cocaine operation. So they had that one little out island, and it was called Stirrup Cay.
When you can recall the beginning of your torture as a child, I presume, and when was that, if you can recall it, and how that was performed? Can you give us some kind of, completely analysis from the beginning of your torture, time that you can recall?
There's
except the fact that you was abused by your father.
Yeah, the sexual abuse, of course, and then I witnessed a murder by my father when I was about 3 years old. That was there was no way to really understand all about death even then to me. I was so small, but it was very traumatic just the same, because the man was shot. He had stumbled onto our camp while we were camping out on the high banks near Muskegon, Michigan, and it was hunting season, and he was a hunter, and he had happened to stumble onto our camp while my father was passing us kids around the campfire to my other uncles who were also sexually abusing us.
So in other words, your father was having sex with you and your brother?
Yes, when this guy happened to accidentally stumble onto the campsite. Mm-hmm. And when he realized what he saw, he turned to run, and my father shot him.
Was your father ever prosecuted for that?
No, not at all. Not at all. There was no problems that arose from that I was ever aware of at all. It certainly created more problems in my mind. So that was very traumatic. There were numerous traumas like that, and like my daughter's abuse, that were especially difficult psychological traumas to deal with. The psychological traumas are far more devastating than physical trauma. To me, I have no fear now. I was asked one time by a customs agent, he said, "Aren't you afraid they'll get you and torture you now?" I said, I'm not afraid of that at all, because I know how far torture goes. It only goes so far, and then it doesn't matter anymore. Physical torture, I know what the experience is like and how far it goes. My body still bears a lot of scars from the physical tortures. The stun gun has left moles and prod marks in my skin, on my back and my arms and my legs. My head has been caved in. The skull is...
Who was performing that on you?
Different people were using the stun gun. Sometimes Secret Service, sometimes especially Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, Philip Habib, Alex.
Who was Philip Habib?
Philip Habib was Reagan's attaché. He was some kind of international diplomat. I don't fully understand exactly what his operations were, although I know what his agenda was, and it was New World Order. So there were quite a few people that used...
I'm sorry. Now, talking about this torture, Mark, you have one of the weapon that Kelly described before. Can you tell us more? And Kelly, can you tell me how they use this on you?
Well, this is one variety. There are many varieties of these things. Uses usually a 9-volt battery and converts it from 100 to 210,000 volts DC current. It's quite powerful. You can see the blue spark there.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is it instantly constricts all your muscles in your body to where you have no ability to holler, to make a noise. All you do is go straight to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's done very quickly, you'll see like a flash of light in behind your eyes.
How did it affect you, Kelly? How they perform this on you? It was the same thing they've been using on you?
Yes, that's one example of it. There's another cylindrical kind that was used internally. It was a vaginal prod that was, I think, a lower voltage, so I was more aware or could feel the pain of it, whereas if I was hit with a higher voltage stun gun, it usually was a matter of things going black and and going down.
This creates flu-like symptoms. You get after about 10 seconds of administering this, what you wind up having is someone who is usually constricted on the ground. They're disoriented. They do not know where they are. They don't know what time of day it is. They don't know anything because their brain sugar has instantly been reduced to the point to where they're delirious. If you hold it on much longer than 20 seconds, all you're going to do is the person is going to be out for several minutes. And when they do recover, their mobility is impaired to the point to where they can't fight, run, do much of anything.
My other question is to you, pointed out, Mark, one of the people asked me a question, one of the editors, why you don't publish your book by some publisher.
Well,
there was a very interesting question that I would like you to have today respond. I could not get the answer because we didn't know each other so much. I believe your story from the beginning, and I would like to have this answer from you.
In the United States, there are laws which protect so-called freedom of speech, particularly if you are a party to an action. And since I was a party to this action, and since I had been threatened and the threats had been documented, the threats coming from the federal government or representatives of the United States government, it made me a party to the action of exposing this atrocity. Had I permitted someone else to publish the book, and we had many publishers that were willing to publish it and pay us well for publishing it, I would have lost the ability to have maintained the content of the book itself, and I would also have lost the book itself. There have been several people to publish books similar to what Cathy and I have published, and the CIA just simply comes in and buys the rights and buys
probably to cover up people
and literally removes them from the shelves of the bookstores, and that's the end of it. There's no more available.
So your aspect was not exactly to make money, to make sensation out of it, and that's the reason that I felt you both to be in the very same, because my motive is to expose that mind control operation of humans as something very dangerous, and something has to be punished all over the world through the media, and I will do my best in my effort to do so. But I'm very glad to hear that kind of answer from you, that you were not particularly gain was to get money out of it and to be a rich man and to get out of it.
At several points in the past 8 years, Cathy and I could have sold our story, and if we agreed to be silenced, we could have sold it, and she would have had enough money to have lived off of the rest of her life, and I could have recovered my life. I invested more in this than anyone would be willing to pay me, frankly, because I was willing to do it, and I did it willingly. But there's no amount of money that can silence us. That's absurd. It can't happen.
Another aspect that I notice is, as a man who is following now, we became friends, and I'm really very much listening. You and I really appreciate your company. Was the way how you met together, and the way that you simply dedicated your future life to something that you didn't know about, what will be happen out of it, something that is very dangerous, but your probably inside soul and instinct tells you that maybe that is your dedication to the humanity, that you somehow to your previous job didn't get as satisfactory, I believe.
Well, as you know, during the late 60s and early 70s, I was exposed to, as a United States Department of Defense subcontractor, I was exposed to some MK Ultra or mind control experimentation, legitimate experimentation that didn't involve torture. It did not involve any sort of trauma. It was more in line with rehabilitating criminals and people involved in mental institution settings, also with apes and dolphins. Behavioral modification programs is actually what they were entitled. But what I learned from those experiences and from what my own research led me to believe was that mind control, or external control of the mind, was perhaps the greatest threat to mankind's survival. Certainly it's the last freedom that we have that is not currently being encumbered on a mass scale. It is encumbered on individual scales, like Cathy is telling you. But when presented with the opportunity, and I look at it as an opportunity, Vuk, to actually make a positive difference, I found no alternative. There wasn't a choice. Had there been a choice, logically, I would not have done what I did, but there was no choice. The choice was very simple: to rescue Cathy and Kelly and to get this information into the public's ear. I just didn't realize it would take me so long to accomplish this goal.
There were so many government secrets and personal reputations staked on the belief that I couldn't be deprogrammed, and I know I'm extremely fortunate to have survived all of this, but they were wrong in believing that, because they made that belief predicated on their own immoral thought processes, and they're limited in their thinking by their own immorality. They never considered that someone like Mark would use the information that he had for good, to actually help not only me, but to help humanity. But I think the most, if there's a happy ending to this story personally, it would be that we have fallen in love, and the love factor has been very significant in my recovery, because not only did he save my life, but I have certainly have a reason to live it. And the love factor is extremely important. I feel like most people spend their lifetime looking for a love and never find it, and at 38 now I've got that love, and that's
your emotions back and the feeling.
Right.
See, when I was talking to some people, I even described, I was telling a little bit of my expressions. I said, this is like a Pygmalion story in a way. Professor and, remember Pygmalion story, My Fair Lady? But in different frame and picture, in different time. I really appreciated very much the way you described me the situations. So can you actually describe me the way you met for the first time, and how how everything happened. And
first of all, I need to apply just a little bit of history. I had a business with the People's Republic of China and the Chinese military. We were involved in a joint venture company to manufacture large capacitor banks that were used in energy savings for the mining industry. The mining industry was having to shut down every other day because of a lack of electricity. And the mining industry, of course, was controlled by the military over there because it was metal. They have a rather odd arrangement on how they control certain things. But as a result of my agreement, joint venture contracts with the People's Republic of China and the military, they were very concerned about who my business partners were, apparently. And Alex Houston, Cathy O'Brien's handler, back in the States, was in fact a business partner of mine. Was a business partner of mine, and actually was one of the people that was instrumental in helping me put this company together. I was told by the Chinese intelligence, I was approached by them after the signing of the contract, that I had a partner in the United States, Alex Houston, who was involved in drug trafficking, child and adult prostitution, pornography, money laundering, and it was working for the CIA, and it was sanctioned by the White House, meaning at the highest level.
Which hotel was that? In China? In which place? In China, you remember?
I have the pictures. I'm not sure. Yes, I am too. It was called the International Hotel in Beijing. Is where actually this meeting took place. A secondary meeting took place at a facility in the Shenzhen province in southern China. But the Chinese offered to provide me the funding to buy Alex Houston out, which they provided. Not only did they give me a $1 million letter of credit through BCCI in New York, but they also provided me with cash to purchase Alex Houston stock. I returned to the United States. I bought Alex Houston stock. I contacted a general friend of mine because of the words mind control being introduced into all this conversation that I'd had with the Chinese intelligence officer. And I explained to him what I was up against, and he told me that mind control, as I knew it from the 60s and 70s research, was fully operational and was saturating the private sector. In other words, the civilians were being abused with it. Well, it was at that point...
It was your friend from CIA who told you that?
Actually, yes, he was CIA, but he was also a high-ranking military official in military intelligence. His connection to the CIA at that time I was not aware of. I've only recently learned that he had CIA connections. He was U.S. military intelligence, which is a separate thing. But this gentleman had tried to convince me that people like Cathy were not helpable, that there was no help available for them, and that once I got her and her daughter out of there, I would just have two insane people on my hands, and I could not possibly help them, even with the knowledge that I'd acquired on this topic. But fortunately, this friend was wrong, because he put me in touch with some other people within U.S. military intelligence who were very cooperative in giving me the information I needed to not only get her out, but also to help put her back together. And
so they've been also
very
engaged in this
yes.
Operation, and
yes.
They knew the technologies and the programming in a way.
Yes, sir. And that's what they provided me as far as the tools to work with. And after working with Cathy about 9 months in Alaska, she had reached a point to where she was not dissociating or going into any sort of trance. She was quite competent, and I felt could withstand the rigors of cross-examination by the federal authorities. So at that point in time, we began in earnest reporting what she had experienced with the proofs that we were able to acquire, which were very limited at that time, and the documents and testimony, which was extremely limited, just to what really I was able to acquire over a few month period of time. We began to supply that to every single law enforcement agency in the United States that could impact this case, to get it before the people necessary to have it properly investigated and have these perpetrators charged. But we were stopped for reasons of national security. Now the bad guys, or the perpetrators, the ones who abused she and her daughter and so many others, are hiding behind the 1947 National Securities Act. The National Security Act is not a necessary provision in our protection of government secrets. We had the rules of ethical military conduct, which protected our nation's secrets since its beginning, and it was quite adequate. What this National Securities Act does, Vuk, is that it protects perpetrators at the highest level for any activity. They can do anything. They can run drugs for money. They can have secret parts of the government that they're funding with drugs and other illicit profits. And it's all done under the guise of national security, and there's nothing that a citizen can do as far as getting it into court.
At this point, we keep raising the question in Kelly's case, what does national security have to do with the rape and molestation of a child? Because Kelly has been literally a political prisoner in the custody of the state of Tennessee. She's denied rehabilitation due to the political prominence of her CIA and MK-Ultra abusers. She's waiting for the peace of mind that I know comes with recovery. She's waiting for the day that she'll be free to be herself, and that she'll be free of this blanket of national security that's been allowing for the proliferation of the violation of laws and rights in her case that are, it's absolutely intolerable and it's blatant. She's been a political prisoner for over 5 years, and we're looking forward to the day when we can get the information out on a wide enough scale that Kelly can actually be helped.
Do you believe that I'm very happy and delightful that tomorrow we're going to meet Kelly, and that I will be able to talk to her, and you told her that I'm coming, and I believe that we'll have a nice time bringing her for the first time out of this facility.
Yes.
Do you believe, Mark and Cathy, that there is some help for her, that someone will be able, with full knowledge of that destructive technology of controlling of human minds, to work out also with Kelly, even if she was exposed to the project?
There is no technology available in the private sector. Civilians have not been given that technology. In other words, the psychiatrists and the psychologists that are in this country and abroad, I don't know of any of them that have access to the technology that is required, that I'm aware of, to help Kelly.
What is the major difference between Cathy's case and Kelly's case?
It's the amount of scarring on the brainstem that occurred prior to age 5. Cathy was abused sexually, physically, and psychologically, and behaviorally, but Kelly was abused through the use of technology and chemicals. Kelly's abuse goes much more pronounced. The brain damage is much more extensive. And Kelly has a wonderful chance for recovery. A wonderful chance.
She's extremely intelligent, for one.
If in fact, we can force this government to at least, and this is what all of this is about, to at least release the equipment that I know is available that would put that child back together, so that she could be a normally functioning adult.
In the meantime, we've nurtured her on a soul level, at the very essence of her being, with love, understanding, and compassion, and also been able to give her an insight and understanding of herself and why she's in the situation that she is, rather than recovered, because her own desire to recover, her own she's so motivated inside to recover that if that could have done it, she'd be there. But she doesn't know why she wasn't able to bring herself to that point. That's not fair that she should even have to think that way. So we hope to get access to some kind of technology that will actually help her stay in control of herself. She says that she longs for the day that she can express herself as she knows she is inside. And it's...
Are you definitely positive that there's no access to any more penetration of any kind of influence on her due to the fact that she could be a very dangerous witness to the much more extensive cover-up on her case?
Actually, there is no guarantees. Not for Kelly, not for me, or Cathy, or for that matter, you. But with as much publicity as this case has been given over the past 5 years through law enforcement, legitimate law enforcement, and legitimate mental health in this country and abroad, I would say that the chances of them abusing Kelly at this point are slim to none. It would not be practical. It would be a big red flag.
I was also facing the different questions, so maybe it's very interesting for you to open my heart and to tell you what kind of question I got when I was playing the tape that you gave me and all these books. For the people that have been very superficially facing that, I mean, it means not reading your book or not even being capable from the time point of view to read that, they always thought that should be something that Americans are planning on us, you know, in a way, even in Europe, in Western Europe. But from the others, they asked me, people that are more concerned and they have some knowledge on that, and especially in this field is not only in the United States, the field is probably Russia, very developed.
Oh, yeah.
In all these
we don't know
fascistic regimes
in the world that is not employing the same type of mind control that Cathy experienced. There's no country in the world that's excluded, and that even goes into some of the most third world primitive societies in Africa.
And such as Haiti.
And Haiti, you know.
Also kind of mind control, trauma. So now most people say how you're still alive, how knowing the fact how CIA is effective, and as a matter of fact how easy. I was facing a situation in my lifetime when I was working on Kurzweil, probably the most dangerous espionage affair in the world, by now of being threatened and being even tortured one time, and lucky enough I survived that torture. But on the way, knowing such methodology of killing, to kill the person, eliminate the person, you just need a few experts on that. What kept you alive through these years? Probably
the single greatest support that we received were from friends that I have made, friendships that I've maintained over the years within the intelligence community and within law enforcement. These people have guided my path and Cathy's path safely through this maze of information dissemination. We have disseminated information. We know what kind of secrets to keep and what not to keep. We know what will get you killed and what you can survive with. We have literally passed through the window of opportunities, and we have successfully gotten this information out in such mass that now, quite honestly, I believe that we're probably safer than most Americans who don't even know about this stuff. I don't feel that we are threatened.
For most of the people that I met, publisher or people from magazines, they ask me questions. Okay, we will publish if it's only a matter of mind control, which people are aware the one way through satanism and other means, but how we can comprehend child abuse with a very famous name in politics.
It's very simple, Vuk. There's one common denominator between a child abuser and one who isn't a child abuser. That common denominator is they're both people. And when people are in positions of absolute power, you know that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And sometimes even the most mild-mannered, unperverted person, when they are placed in positions of extreme authority, under extreme pressure, They develop some very sociopathic attitudes towards their fellow man, and in the process of doing so, express themselves sexually in a very perverted way. Now, this is common knowledge among people who study the mind, psychologists, psychiatrists, and mental health people. They realize that the higher up the ladder of success someone rises, the more perverted their sexuality becomes, and the more criminal-minded they become. This has been known throughout history. So to say that because this person is a famous politician, or an entertainer, or a musician, it does not make them exempt from perverted behavior. As a matter of fact, it accelerates it. And this is a matter of human nature. So in the past, you know, rock stars, if they were all arrested for drug use, there wouldn't be any rock stars. I mean, there wouldn't be any rock and roll because they'd all be locked up. So why aren't they locked up when they use this stuff openly? Everybody knows they use it. They use it because they buy it. So that means they're buying it, they're selling it, they're using it, and they don't go to prison. It's because of society accepts it. But they will not accept someone sitting in the audience using it while they're watching these rock stars use it. Politicians, on the other hand, pass laws to have perverted persons locked up. But they themselves are practicing the perversions, and they are above the law because they have placed themselves that way. So that's really the only answer that I can think of logically to answer your question.
Other means that other questions I was asking you, there's other questions I was asking from the people that I was showing this film to, was what is the perspective of majority of Americans? Are they aware that they came to the stage of very strange situation, which we know as Orwell 84 book, by Orwell book 84, as total control. You know, we was having a lot of films on that, and it's
right.
Hollywood industry is full of those films. How do you think, because you have access to reality, you have access to be with Cathy, who was actually one of those robots that we was watching even in Hollywood by the time. What is your opinion about this country, where this country is going? Is that phenomenon scaring a lot of people in this country?
George Orwell in 1949 gave us some pretty grim predictions based on some theories that he had developed based on some technology that he knew that were being developed. George Orwell had connections into the intelligence community, both British MI6 as well as CIA. In those days, it was the OSS. George Orwell, when he wrote his books, many of them, he predicted a society which would, through natural evolution, be controlled through its own technology. Secret knowledge equals power. And when you have secret knowledge, technologically speaking, you can control whomever. For instance, the United States is in control of the world at this time due to its technology advancements. Now, technology has a way of not being a tameable or protectable asset. As a matter of fact, more espionage is committed in search of technological secrets than any other single piece of secret knowledge or information that any government or corporation can contain. So secret knowledge is very, very important for control. We as a people are not, as an average American person, are not aware that the government is about 25 to 30 years ahead of us, technologically speaking. Now, Vuk, I ask you, the camera that you're working with right now was not even thought of 25 years ago, much less available. So technology, if you removed everything from your life that was not in existence 25 years ago, you would practically remove everything that you have, including some of your clothing, because of technology. Man has got to evolve through this technological breakthrough. We will defy what George Orwell predicted, and which has come true. Big Brother is in fact watching us all, but through the use of technology. But mankind will and must evolve through it, or mankind will fail as a species.
From my perspective, people tend to pick and choose what they want to believe of my victimization predicated on their own experience. And in the last 5 years, people can relate to it more because it is their experience. More and more people are affected in some aspect by mind control. They're affected by someone, a loved one that's in special forces with the military, or someone who has been affected by occultism and blood trauma and mind control through that. There's people affected through child abuse scandals that are not seeing any justice in this country. There's people that are most widely affected through the global education process that's been implemented in the school system. That's where the education system has been changed and designed to increase the children's learning capacity while decreasing their ability to critically analyze. It's making them robotic. They come home to their parents as children that their parents don't even recognize anymore. They don't know who those children are.
It's like the young man who goes off and is recruited by the military and then is put into a special forces training, and he comes back and he has no memory of any of his personal life. His parents barely recognize his persona, and his loved ones no longer even know who he is.
Now, this isn't to say that global education is the kind of experience that I had.
No.
My experience was extreme, and I was totally robotic. These kids are coming out of school in a slightly robotic state. They're coming out with a completely different attitude towards life. So there's like a sliding scale of mind control, but nevertheless, more and more people in this country are affected in one way or another. So they are wide open to that reality. Plus, with the erosion of our constitutional values, with our country having been just completely eroded morally and financially, people are opening their eyes a little bit. They're beginning to ask questions and demand answers as to what went on. So they're more ready to accept the information.
Our government has created total chaos in this country by flooding the streets with drugs.
That's
drugs that are addictive, drugs that are debilitating, and drugs that will capture all of the not only disposable incomes of the lower class, middle class, upper class, but also their entire life savings.
And they know that the CIA is involved in the drug industry. I don't know anybody that doesn't know that in this country. The average drug dealer on the streets, just kids, know that if they're not part of CIA operations, they're going to get busted. So that's the word on in the slums to the kids that are selling drugs on the street corners. So people are aware that there's a big problem in this country.
So what kind of society is a society between slaves and masters, or which way are we going to? Which way this government is
Take
bringing?
a look back in history and see what Adolf Hitler's vision was for his New World Order, and that's exactly what we're headed into.
Unless we get the information out. The only defense against mind control is knowledge. They have been operating on the idea that secret knowledge equals power, and in fact that has been true. We need to tell those secrets. That's why Mark and I have written the book. That's why we're getting the information out. That's why we have so many behind us dedicated to getting this information out. People have a right to know and a need to know this information for the sake of humanity as we know it.
How about you appeared in a lot of, how many talk shows you're appearing, and how many conference you was appearing with?
Vuk, I don't have an exact figure. I can guesstimate from the number of years and the number of stops, and just by a drawer full of canceled airline tickets, probably 150 personal appearances, and probably...
With Cathy together, right?
Oh, always. And probably twice that many radio and television shows, both in the United States and Canada.
When the television shows will be taking place now? Television shows?
The TV shots were usually limited to news people coming in to seminars and taking 5-minute, 2-minute, 1-minute film clips of what we were talking about. We have done a couple of on-camera interviews with some people, investigative reporters, and those have been aired in various markets. We did one 4-hour segment for a Christian broadcast group, which was aired in 30-minute increments, 8 shows.
You have this on tape here? Tape?
Actually, I can get it. The master I have here, I copied it so many times, it's finished. It's a lousy interview.
Okay.
I'm not pleased with it. It was back in the early days where I was unable to say some of the things that we wanted to say because we did not have hard proof or hard testimony, corroborating testimony.
And the media is so controlled and censored. We've had to do this.
Oh, yeah.
We've had to do this a difficult way, making copies and getting information out. And now that we've got the book, at least it's an easier, more comprehensive vehicle for getting the information out.
I mean, he was together with 60 Minutes once, and they were doing a story. What's happened with that segment and how the situation was looking like?
That segment was filmed in California, videotaped, and the interviewer, with tears in his eyes, told Cathy that someday her story will be told, but not now. In other words, then off camera, I asked him, I said, where is this tape going? He said, it's going back to 60 Minutes. I said, who is it for? He said, why? I said, who is it for? He said, it's for the CIA. They want to see what you're talking about.
A very similar experience, talking about 60 Minutes, I was sent to 60 Minutes to the very distinguished gentleman that I respect, David Weiner of New York Times, who discovered a very similar self-inflicted terrorist act by the Muslim in Sarajevo, which was used as pretext for bombing of the service, even that everybody knew that was not done by that. But I was also with 60 Minutes. I was with Don Hewitt, walking legend of American journalism. I was showing to his producer, one of them was Jeff Fegger, who I mentioned in one of the film, which was actually airing to them as maybe last honest story about American journalism, was a story about Kuwaiti's daughter, Kuwaiti ambassador, who was 1 month pretending to be a witness from the Kuwait, and how kids were killed, and Bush was, even knowing the fact that she was daughter of Kuwaiti ambassador, quoting her statements. Don Hewitt went for half an hour to inform himself from CIA. He came back and he said, your story is right. I cannot air your story because they will damage the whole industry of media. They will damage the whole thing. So I'm very sorry. That is the biggest challenge I ever had. It's the biggest conspiracy that I heard of. But I'm sorry I cannot make it. End of discussion. So I understand that some topics will never, but I hope that this topic will be very soon aired in the future and they will do something about that.
Well, it's happening now. As I mentioned earlier, we've had more press, good, solid press, interested in what we're talking about in the last 5 months than we've had in the last 8 years. And we are, in fact, winning.
I think it's the people's demand for answers that's causing the media to start coming around, because people have gone totally to alternative media, the radio and shortwave, and what they call underground newspapers and things like that, which are, in essence, patriot newspapers. But there's so many people, the majority of the people are turning to the alternative media to the point where the mainstream media is going to have to just get with it now or lose out entirely. I mean, it's just time for it to turn around. The demand of the people has risen to that proportion in this country.
Exactly.
So you're planning also, I was told that, what you can tell me about this global education order? What is this all about? And how you understand it? We didn't have, or we're not aware of that in Europe for time being.
Makes me wonder if it's under a different name. There's a lot of different names that's used in this country, in Canada and Mexico that I'm aware of. The Global Education 2000, Goals 2000. In this country, it's referred to as America 2000, Outcome-Based Education. So there's a lot of different names. But in essence, it's a form of teaching that is more...
of teaching.
A method of teaching through computers and headphones that affects the subconscious more directly.
The same stuff we were working on in the 60s and 70s for NASA, so that astronauts could remember everything that they saw while in space. Some of those same principles are being applied in our schools using simple computers. Back in those days, though, they didn't have simple computers. They were quite elaborate. It would fill a room with equipment now you can have on your lap.
So what is the philosophy behind also on the control of the masses, or what is global education? What
it is an absolute control of the masses and supposedly a control on the gross national product, the productivity of these children when they emerge as adults and are going to be in a work environment. It's a very easy way to put them into certain classifications very quickly, very simply, and everybody does the same job that they're assigned supposedly much more efficiently. There seems to be a tremendous amount of questions of whether or not that could actually happen. In some areas, I can assure you that efficiency does go up, but creativity goes down. And our species, our human species, has evolved because of its ability to become creative. Once our creativity is stifled, then we will be plunged into a dark ages that would, I suppose, rival anything in history. So we're on the threshold for that now, Bruce.
When I was forced to work under Secretary of Education Bill Bennett during the Reagan administration, I was forced to deliver a message to the state governors at a convention that was being held. And this particular message included the idea that they could control the future by controlling the children, and that by controlling the information that the children learned, and in other words, adjusting history to fit their own agenda, that they could actually be affecting the future. And in essence, I suppose that that's true, that children are our future.
But how you explain the phenomena, how many people that you believe and how many programs of mind control are existing now, and how many people that you know that were together with you? You was also mentioning School of Charm, something like that.
Yes, there's the Charm School where the sex slaves in particular were taken through, and there were a half dozen to a dozen girls going through at a time for a 3-day course. And there were so many mind-controlled slaves in my own controlled environment that I genuinely believe that the whole world was involved in mind control. I thought that's the way the world was. There were that many. I don't know the exact numbers.
Where was that school located, and how many people was attending? Can they call it course?
Youngstown, Ohio, and it was.
It was a military base, or?
No, actually it was part of the university area, and it was an old museum-type house that was used by a banking family here that's quite affluent, the Mellon banking family. So they were involved directly in my victimization. The so-called governor of Charm School was. That was Stuart Mellon that I'm aware of. But there were quite a few girls that were run through there, and I went through there on the average of once a year for reprogramming or additional.
What kind of program was there? What it taught you there?
To fulfill different perversions. For example, there was oral sex program that involved not breathing for an extended period of time so that the man would be gratifying himself in the throat without allowing for any breathing to go on, and he would actually become so excited by the idea that he could be suffocating the girl that that would be his sexual thrill. And that was one thing that we were taught. It was called a 3-minute miracle, to be able to sexually gratify someone before you were killed. And I am aware of girls that died exactly that way. Other perversions included bestiality and the bisexuality. There were numerous perversions.
It was done on university and in a special area of university. Who was the teacher there?
No, it wasn't associated with the university. It was just near the Youngstown University area, within that Mellon home. So it was nobody actually lived there. It was used strictly for bringing girls in on occasion. I really don't know how often the doors were open, if they stayed open or if they only opened them on certain occasions.
Is it the bank that was involved in this drug trafficking and a lot of scandals in the United States?
Yes, Jim Trafficking was involved, and he's a U.S. congressman that has infiltrated the patriot groups, acting like he's somebody that is concerned for the welfare of our country, when in fact that's not his agenda at all. And he was one of those. He and Dick Thornburg were among those that would test the girls to see if they could actually be released from charm school. It was very torturous.
Okay. So Mark, you have some additional material that was requested from a publisher, people from the media in Europe, that you would like to present me today. What material we're talking about that you'll be giving, supporting your book and your thesis?
There's been a variety of publications that have been put out over the past, we'll say 5 years, that support the vast majority of everything that's in our book. A General Russell Bowen wrote The Immaculate Deception, subtitled The Bush Crime Family Exposed. He goes into Bush's worldwide oil deals, his arrangements that he has made with the Arab world, his cocaine business and drug business out of the Far East as well as out of South America. General Bowen worked for George Bush, and he worked for the CIA for a number of years, and actually believed that he was importing drugs to be distributed in the Soviet Union. He felt like this was part of the psychological warfare that we were waging against the Soviet Union. He did not realize that George Bush was actually putting these drugs on the streets of America. And when he did, he began to testify against his own government, and as a result wound up being imprisoned himself. Now, Russell, or General Bowen, is now living in Peru. He moved about 5 weeks ago. He moved actually the third week in February of 1996 of this year. But he did produce a wonderful document called The Immaculate Deception. And like many other books that describe what Cathy O'Brien experienced at the hands of our government as a slave in the drug muling and prostitution business, she also had provided facts actually before General Bowen wrote his book. She provided the facts to a number of persons that are familiar to me, both in military intelligence and within the CIA. In addition to just this one book, we have probably our largest single files are medical documentations. There are literally thousands of pages of medical documentation where the psychologists and psychiatrists that have examined Cathy O'Brien and her daughter have all confirmed what we know are the findings. In addition to that, Canadian intelligence, of whom I am acquainted with some of the members, have provided more information with regards to some of the perpetrators that Cathy O'Brien mentions, such as Michael Aquino, who is head of the, or was formerly a United States Army colonel in charge of psychological warfare here in the United States.
He's a very famous figure. He considers a Nazi person who formed a ritual.
As a matter of fact, he embraces the whole philosophy of Nazism, and he was, a few years ago, in 1987, there was a search warrant issued as a result of some complaints by local children being molested in his home. Well, when they went into his home, they did find a number of articles relating to Nazi belief systems, symbologies, symbols, things of this nature, but they also found something else. Colonel Aquino is head of what is known as the Temple of Set. The Temple of Set is actually a spin-off church of the Church of Satan. Like Heinrich Himmler was researching, and by the way, Heinrich Himmler is his hero. Heinrich Himmler was studying the black arts and trying to understand more about the effect on the person's mind that is exposed to these blood rituals and sort of thing. What, amazingly enough, Colonel Aquino found out that this was a wonderful trauma base for controlling people's minds. Cathy O'Brien and her daughter both had, unfortunately, a great deal of exposure to Michael Aquino, and we have a number of people in the United States military who have stepped forward and provided credible testimony to support her her findings and statements and testimony before federal agents. It's unusual, and I must tell you this. Michael Aquino has sued, he's a litigant, he has sued everyone who has ever attacked him in a publication, or on radio, or on television. And he, in some of his lawsuits, have been quite successful. We are the only exception. The reason being is because if he would sue us, we could take him to court with hard proof of his abuses of Cathy and her daughter. And of course, this is the same situation that exists with George Bush and some of the others. But Michael Aquino had a book written around him, and I'll read you something, and it says, what most people don't know, and what U.S. law enforcement officers are only beginning to discover, is that Satanism is the fastest growing underground criminal movement in the world today, and that it is directly linked to an exploding number of child abuse cases, Nazism, drug dealing, pornography, and prostitution. Now, this sounds very familiar because this is exactly what Cathy O'Brien has been talking about. Linda Blood is a friend of mine. As a matter of fact, we are mentioned in her book several times. This New Satanist, it came out last year by Dell Publishing here in the United States. The CIA did not want it to stay on the market, so they stopped the publication, just as they would have ours had we allowed a publisher to handle it. But this particular book literally rips off the covers of secrecy concerning Michael Aquino's use of Nazism and blood traumas and Satanism to externally control the mind through trauma.
I noticed that in most of this book that you provide me as extra material to your book, we are facing a similarity between Nazism and Nazi Germany and the United States today, or George Bush, World War order. In all this material, is it coincidence, or you believe that it's formally like that?
I believe, like many intelligence officers believe, and many federal officers believe, who are associated closely with the mechanism in Washington, that Nazism is alive and well in this country because it was just simply exported from Germany in the 40s. I'm adamant to say that I don't believe Nazism ever died. I just think it was resurrected over here because as our conversations earlier in the day concerning Project Paperclip have proven that we imported all these scientists with all these ideas and how to create chaos in a society, and they have done an excellent job.
What other materials you're providing us as well?
There's a great number of bodies of research concerning Himmler's use of people in human experiments to create the perfect proverbial Manchurian candidate. All of this research has been actually collected by a number of top-notch physicians and lawyers around this country. I've been very privileged to have been a part of contributing from my experience in the 60s and the 70s working for the Defense Department and being associated with the project known as MK Ultra, which is, of course, the United States government's code name for the mind control experiments. In addition to that, there are, and this is some of the lawyers' briefs about what they have discovered so far as the secret government goes in our country that is actually undermining the efforts of every good person in this country. The Mormon Church, of course, is highly affected, much like the Catholics are, because their belief systems have actually been. Here's an article here. Top Mormon officials probe member allegations of satanic abuse. The Mormon Church is literally under fire right now because they're claiming that better than 60% of the children in the Mormon Church in some way or another have been sexually and psychologically abused in their daycare settings and other church-sponsored functions. It's really it's reached a point now of epidemic stage in this country. You know, look, in 1980 there were 200 cases of this dissociative identity disorder that the American Psychiatric and American Psychological Associations had actually published. There were 200 reported cases. In 1990 there were 250,000 cases reported in this country. In 1995, 2.5 million cases reported.
Of child abuse?
No, of multiple personality disorder, or what is known as dissociative identity disorder. That's what Cathy O'Brien and her daughter suffered from.
Anything anywhere publicly, numbers that you were mentioning now? Do you have any quotation from that magazine, scientific magazine?
Yes, the American Psychiatric Association is the one who compiled these figures from their group of participating psychiatrists across the United States, and actually Canada too is included in the studies.
I could understand logically putting all these facts, the knowledges together, that we're talking now about mind control operation on a big scale in the United States, which is scaring me.
Yes.
Is that what you want to say?
It's very scary, yes sir, and it is big in terms of numbers because, Vuk, when you're talking about 2.5 million people, and the estimates are that only 1 in 10 are actually seen and diagnosed, you're talking about 20 to 25 million people. That constitutes a sizable portion of the United States with a serious psychological problem. Serious. Those kind of people are capable of becoming serial killers. They usually suicide themselves at very young ages. They themselves will be child abusers. They'll abuse their own children and not even know they're doing it. It becomes autogenic behavior. In other words, it's just a knee-jerk response system. In addition to that, you asked me a question. You said, is Cathy O'Brien the first person that has ever come forward? The answer to you then was no. There's been many, but only one has ever been considered completely put together and competent and had her case documented as well as Cathy's. And that was a lady by the name of Candy Jones. Candy Jones, this is a copy of a book that was published in 1976, I believe. And Candy Jones Let's see. Well, yeah, 1976, excuse me. Candy Jones was used by the CIA as a prostitute, as a mind control prostitute. She had suffered sexual abuse as a child. Her husband was a prominent radio announcer in New York, and his name was Long John Neville. And Mr. Neville was quite successful in enlisting the services of friends within the intelligence community who actually persuaded the CIA to admit that they had been using this woman as a proverbial Manchurian candidate or a mind control slave. Well, other than Candy Jones, no one else the CIA has ever admitted doing this to. Even though they were caught in Canada in the early 70s, or actually late 60s, they were caught using a psychiatrist that they were paying, the CIA was paying, to torture individuals at a particular mental hospital in Montreal. Dr. Ewing Cameron. By the way, it should be noted that Dr. Cameron was the original founder of the American Psychiatric Association and was the man that our head of the intelligence community, Alan Dulles, in the 50s, put into the position of being in control of MKUltra. So mind control is not new in this country or any other country. It's been around for thousands of years. But the sophistication of it, to this point, has now reached such a proportion that people are seeing the results everywhere, but they don't see is the sophistication of the mind control itself. They don't recognize the symptoms that are being created in these people until it's too late. Walter Bauer, a fellow friend and researcher, wrote a book in 1978 called Operation Mind Control. Walter did perhaps one of the best bodies of research that has ever been provided, but unfortunately Walter allowed Dell Publishing Company to print his book, and the CIA, although they paid him quite well for it, bought all the copies up off the shelves and bought the rights to the book from Dell and took it off the market, because this information was much, much, much too powerful to be released into the private sector.
What's happened to him later on? He was
Walter himself had become a victim as a result of his research into this. The CIA had administered a very powerful drug to him and hurt Walter a great deal. But Walter has since recovered and continues his research.
What was happened to him? You know him personally, so you
yes,
know what kind of drugs they gave him?
They gave him a drug called ibogaine. Ibogaine is an extract from a vine that comes out of Brazil. And ibogaine produces characteristically a type of delusional behavior consistent with someone who is clinically insane for all practical purposes. And they will have good days and they'll have bad days. Walter had been affected for over 44 days.
But I mean, he was married to the woman that was
yes, he was married to the Mellon banking family. That same Mellon banking family, by the way, is one of the most powerful banking families in the entire world, and was originally put together with the Rockefellers, and they've been implicated in practically every money laundering scandal that this country's ever known, particularly involving George Bush and his drugs and the CIA.
So the bank is closed right away, right?
Oh, no.
No?
It's one of the most prominent banks in the world and remains such today. And he has to divorce this woman because the bank was actually corrupt for the CIA. Is that correct information? He was divorced, and any money that he had had as a result of that relationship is gone. They took it away from him and left him penniless. I got reports from all over the world. Dr. Hans Gruber, himself a physician, or Hans Greitz rather, is indeed a victim of mind control. by a cooperative effort of the KGB and the CIA. And he also has thrown another one into the mix called the Shabak, which is the Iranian intelligence gathering group. Dr. Brice has been in touch with Walter Bauer and myself and some of the other avid researchers in this country for a number of years now. He himself is in a state of recovery. Unfortunately, in Germany, this disorder is not even recognized as being real. If you have it, they'll say that you have something else. They do not allow anything to be written on mind control. They do not allow anything to be published on government abuse of external control of the mind or behavioral modification. They won't allow any kind of term associated with it. There's a tremendous amount of information available on what has happened across the country and around the world regarding mind control. But I think the most prominent thing that we've seen in the last few years, as a researcher, I can say this, even though I have been personally involved with Cathy O'Brien, her case, as far as the physicians in this country, and I'm a member of the International Society for the Study of Dissociation, which is a very prestigious group of physicians worldwide who are attempting to build a model for practical recovery of persons like Cathy O'Brien. And at this point, the American Psychiatric Association is actually considering publication of a treatment modality that I have co-developed from my sources in the CIA. The same treatment method and modality that I used to work with Cathy O'Brien successfully to bring her case to a conclusion. And as you know, for the past 5.5 years, she and I have been on a lecture circuit with physicians and law enforcement, and they've been gaining extra credit just for listening to her tell her story.
So we're going tomorrow to see Kelly.
Yes.
I believe that Kelly one day will be rescued and will be able to do something with the help, of course, with the full knowledge and...
With the people that are watching this video right now, those people, if they will do something, whether it is to have our book published in their respective country, or whether it is for generating publicity for this case, that's all it's going to take, Vuk, in order for us to be able to successfully get this girl into a therapy that will help her.
Thank you, Mark, for your extensive report.
Thanks, Vuk.
This is a mental institution, and now with Cathy and Mark, we're going to visit her and take her for lunch. And it's the first time that this girl was allowed to go. All right. Make a shot around.
Go in and get her.
Is that the place?
Yeah.
It's a small place.
It's huge.
It's huge?
Huge on the inside. It looks small on the outside.
Oh, really?
That place is enormous. It doesn't look more than maybe 2,500 square feet. I mean, at least 5,000 square feet in that place.
So, can you tell us something about this place? The camera?
The only thing I can tell you is that it's called a group home, and it's, you see that van there? That's a state vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you've got permission from the court, you can't go in there. Mm-hmm. It's a bummer. All those doors are electric. The windows are that material that you can't break. You know, it's a fairly secure place.
So nobody can go out from the big face?
Well, they do, but, you know.
All right.
On the side of suicide.
Was Alex Spector also in the slaves?
Yes. Yes, Arlen Spector had his own, and that was who Cathy was used with. They used her in commercial pornography, and that's now there's quite a bit of that commercial stuff out there still. Larry Flint did that stuff, and of course that was one of the reasons that woman's still alive too, because they would have killed her because they were afraid that she might begin remembering. She made a comment to me when we found her. She said, "Nobody would believe what I can't remember." Nobody would believe what I can't remember.
Can we find her, or she's not?
Oh, I know where she is.
Yeah? Can we speak to her?
No. She's like Kelly. She's crazy.
You know she's old?
She's Cathy's age, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She's now in some institution, too?
No. She's still locked into the system. But, because they're using her children.
They're still using her children?
Oh, yeah. And see, that's why Kelly's here, because they'd be using her. See, the courts fought Cathy for 5 years to take her back. And they were going to give her to the biological father, the serial killer, or to Alex Houston, or to Cathy's father, or to Cathy's sister. They were trying to do this, and that's what we kept fighting, and we kept beating them. So when Kelly tried to kill 2 people in her institution, the last place, that they couldn't turn her loose. And she tried to take a brick and cave this woman's head in, this woman that worked there. She won't appear. I mean, she.
Where's the address? Maybe he just take her from inside of the car, so she wouldn't see the car. I just want to have her on the camera once. Is she coming from there or from here?
She'll be coming right down the front steps.
From there?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right
ovdje će da počne da ona da dolazi. Vidiš ovdje. Stavi kameru tako da bude došla da snima bar na video. So I don't know if we'll be able to record Cathy, right? Kelly,
I would do it. Let's see what's happening first and ask Cathy first.
Okay.
Because Kelly is clinically insane. And cameras, of course, are what was used against her. So she's terrified of them.
Tell me something about these pornography films.
Yes.
They're existing?
Oh, God, yeah. Tons of them. Off the record, we've got a lot of them. And that was one of the things that I turned over to the FBI, and they threatened to lock me up on. Because they said, this kind of pornography is illegal. You can't own it. And I turned it over to a federal judge, and the federal judge said, you come up with one more piece of evidence and we're going to lock you up for 20 years. I said, well, there are other people out there with evidence, and they'll come forward when the time is right. And the truth of the matter is,
protecting them, practically their people, right?
yes. The truth of the matter is, I've got tons of it.
And Larry explained to him.
Yeah, it's Larry Flint's. Some of it's Larry Flint stuff. Some of it is.
It was illegal for him to do that with children?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. In this country, it's 20 years to life for photographing children.
But he was never prosecuted.
But he was Ronald Reagan's best friend in the whole world. Ronald Reagan is a real sleazo. I mean, he didn't like children, but he's a real sleazy bastard. Most people don't know this. Ronald Reagan's an actor, and so they thought he was a good guy. But, oh, he's terrible.
So it was Larry Flint's signature in the film, or can somebody prove it was
No. Yeah, oh, some of them, yeah.
So instead of it, nobody could do anything?
You can't do anything.
If you could take the films and go to some movie channel or something, doesn't work?
No. I'd go to jail.
Okay.
I was stating that there's a very good chance that when Cathy arrived to pick her daughter up, her daughter had no memory, even though they've been talking about this.
Can you speak to the master hour?
I was setting the time.
Oh, I see.
I'm listening to it.
Okay.
The child will probably have very little ability to even remember what she and her mother had talked about doing today. And I know Cathy told me, she said, well, Kelly ought to be ready to go, and she'll have her hiking clothes on. And I said, Cathy, it'll be the first time. I said, she will not remember, most likely, that you were even going to be here today.
right?
Yeah, and it's always this way. Of course, Cathy always hopes that the next time she sees her, she'll remember.
Oh, I see.
It just doesn't happen. It can't happen.
So she was used she was from the day A to be in the program, right?
Yeah, absolutely. From the moment she was born, they were doing amniocentesis or whatever they call it, on Cathy at NASA. On Cathy before the child was still in her womb. They were doing all the kind of probing around and sticking the needles through the stomach and everything else. I have no earthly idea what they were doing. I can assure you that.
Somebody knows what was done on her. She has a file.
Yeah, there's tons of files, but I don't have access to those files. I do have access.
Okay, dolazi malo.
I have access to one or two of the sides.
No, we are from around Europe.
Really? What part of Europe?
From Yugoslavia.
Former Yugoslavia?
Yeah, former Yugoslavia. We are bad Serbs.
Is that where you're from, Serbia?
Yes.
Cool. You guys are touring around the United States?
He was born here, but I'm touring.
Well, Brice and ours. That's
Great job.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey!
Hello everybody.
I think that's
Nice New Year, eh?
my friend. Not a good one.
I change my weeds. I don't go back. Hi guys. Hello guys.
Say hi.
Hello. Hello. Are you okay? Kelly. Hi, babe.
Aloha!
Hi, guys.
That one won't work. It's got your
Looks
leg.
like a wind
Your
vane.
leg would have to go backwards. Let me see if I can get it over here.
Kelly, do you like this area here?
Hey, do what?
You're happy today?
It doesn't work. I love it. Hello. Hello. That's not funny, Mark. Dad. I know what that one is. That's not.
I'll tell you what, if I went off there, I'd be doing some serious flapping.
That wasn't.
I always said if I fall off, I want to say I'm going to flap my arms. I'm going to flap them like a damn honeybee.
I mean, bird is what I'll be flapping on. That's pretty fast.
Pretty good. You know what? The hummingbird is very dynamically able to fly. Damn old bumblebee.
Melanie? Hi.
Hey, how you doing, Vuk?
Okay.
Yeah, because
Melanie did very good participation in our programming.
Their fuselage.
I'm just relaxing a little bit here, enjoying the view.
All right.
Body weight. In the air, they weigh nothing.
is that a tick, Dad?
Yeah.
Or is it a bug?
He's a bug. Probably CIA.
For now.
All right, girls. You like our day today, yeah?
Fun. Tiring, but fun.
All right.
Who's more tired, the mother or the daughter?
Shall we take a vote? All right, whose legs are wiggling the most?
What books are you reading now, Kelly? Kelly, what books are you reading now? Is there any books title, particular title?
Anything. Magazine? Extraordinary Science, Discovery magazines. I don't know, that's about.
What's your favorite television station that you like the most?
Oh, Discovery Channel.
Really?
By far, definitely. That and Comedy Central.
Oh, really?
What Comedy Central? Because they exposed Bill Clinton quite thoroughly, as if the rest of the world hasn't already done so. Yeah. Really?
You don't like Bill Clinton?
Pardon?
You don't like Bill Clinton?
Not really. He's kind of dumb. Hillbill kind of goes good together. But,
How about the Hillary?
too manipulative. Right. Anybody that works for the United States of America, I can't really tell. I don't like most of them that much. For the new U.S., I can understand it.
You believe there will be new U.S. someday? Something new?
It's changing rapidly. What a fair. Should we do feet for him? What? Yeah. That's right. Foot for thought. Really?
Would you like to go to Italy?
Pardon?
Would you like to go to Italy with us?
Yeah, very much so.
So we can make a study and do all these tours, Florence, Rome,
I would love to
Venice.
visit Florence.
Venice is the most beautiful. Napoli is beautiful. Naples, the most beautiful place in the world.
What kind of? I'd love to go. What changes are you looking for most in the in this country and in your situation? To stop the manipulation of lesser people.
And which way you mean? Which way manipulation?
Do what?
Which manipulations you're talking about?
Anything from mind control to yeah, justicism definitely. The control the state has over the whereabouts of children and the abuse that gets placed on them while they're in custody. Yeah, a separation of family. I always say the separation of families.
How affected separation from your mother? How affect your life?
probably drawn us closer together, if anything. Exact opposite of what everybody else wanted to happen. Exactly.
Do you remember anything from your, past life and abuse? Can you remember?
Not much. I still have a block.
There's
How is this feeling and remembering of that situation? How is it affecting your life? I'm your friend.
Yeah, well,
that actually makes sense.
I'm just about to
Yeah.
I'm just about to reveal in all the world your story. Why? No. Sorry, you understood wrong. But on the fact to punish the people who did what they've done to you, to your life and to your emotion, to your. This is my goal in life. My father was in concentration camp by the Nazi, and that's why I'm against every violation and everything in life. I deeply, I think about you every day. So do you believe one day you will be able to remember everything, Kelly?
Yeah. One day.
What's your favorite actor?
My favorite actor?
Yeah.
What do you think of actors?
They're people. Just the same. They just have a talent for entertaining other people.
Right. Is there anybody that you particularly like, or?
Brad Pitt, because he's attractive. And the movie that he's coming out with, what was it called?
I don't know.
He's coming out with some movie that speaks out against, it's entitled Sleepers, that's what it was, Sleepers. And it's about, like, people being abused under hypnosis, and also, I probably like Adrian Paul just because there's more to him than meets the eye off of his television series. And Steven Seagal, needless to say, he's a brilliant man, and he's proven that through his little messages in every movie he's ever made, except for that one cheap one.
Yeah.
Do you like,
What's he proven through those movies?
He's proven that the government's fucking us all over. Pardon my French.
Which way? Many ways, right?
At least it exposes it.
In all ways. They're literally.
What do you think of the news?
Shit. Right, think about it. A lot isn't being said. On some things it is.
What would you like to see more of on the news?
Everything being told. Tired of the hiding, the covering up. Power is in secrets. Without the secrets, there's no power. The secret's out.
So you believe one day all the secrets will come out?
Oh, definitely. We're more than halfway there. Halfway was admitting finally that something's up, period.
Yeah. And,
Kelly, how you believe that you would like to live with your mother again and with Mark happily?
Hopefully sometime in the near future, like maybe this year, we'll be living together in a log cabin somewhere in Alaska.
Oh, you like Alaska?
Love it.
Oh, that's a place where you're...
It's wonderful. Perfect temperature, perfect scenery, just perfect.
Do you remember anything of your childhood, or it's really like a barrier in your mind?
Well, I think the best things I remember is the horses, some of the good walks I took with my mom, and the time when we were going on daily motorcycle rides with Dad.
In Alaska?
No, in Casey Springs, Tennessee.
Oh.
It was about 6, 7.
How about Alex Houston? Do you like?
no.
Do you remember him? Do you remember Alex Houston?
Lying bastard. Well, actually, I don't know.
Is Alex Houston in your memory, or
Not really. I don't I block out like a photographic picture of him. But I mean, I know who he is if I were to see him. I know it.
When's the last time you met him? You saw him, remember?
God, what, 9 years ago?
Just about.
Yeah, about
1988.
So about 8 years ago.
How about Cox?
Unfortunately, I got the privilege of seeing him about, what, 4 years ago? Last time, I think, at Cumberland House. And I was physically restrained and forced to see him, and my head pushed against the floor because I refused to talk to him. That was a pleasant memory.
So what is the purpose of his visiting you? Just to...
I don't know. I don't care. I just don't want to have anything to do with it.
When's the last time you saw him?
The result the last time I saw him was drastic, emotionally traumatized me, I'll tell you that. And it gave me a pretty good headache.
You're a gorgeous girl. And I believe that you have a great career in front of you. And you're a great writer. I'm definitely positive. You're really the most brilliant girl I've met in absolutely the last 10 years. Most brilliant, intelligent, and beautiful.
And the bad thing is I can't even exercise my brain.
Why?
Well, the place I'm at now, I mean, everybody there is dumb. I mean, they're not ignorant, because at least if you're ignorant, you can be taught. Just terrible. They think a big word would be something like deluxe or caviar.
So you're not happy in the place you're now?
No, definitely not. I enjoy it sometimes, but more often I don't than I do.
So
If I wasn't there, I wouldn't have got to meet a lot of great people.
So you like prefer to be in some college, go to study? What is your favorite subject that you would like to study? Like some science?
Science, definitely. Science and literature. Any of those. I'm good at math, but it's not something I would actually study, per se. Oh, well, I might. Take that back. Because that ties in a lot to science. The two kind of go hand in hand.
Would you like to be a writer? Journalist?
Not really. I like it for a pastime, but I think overall, veterinary is calling me. That's my calling.
What is now your education is looking like? How you can describe your education system in the place you're now?
Okay, I'm supposed to be either in, I think it would be geometry or in Algebra 2. Instead, I'm doing pre-algebra. Mm-hmm. I'm supposed to be in English 2, but I'm doing 7th grade English, like spelling. It's just ridiculous.
you have a Shakespearean English. How somebody could taught you spelling and all this stuff? You said because other people are like this, other people that are there. How many people are there in this room, in this place you are there?
In the house that I'm living in, there's 7 other girls besides myself.
The only girls?
Uh-huh.
Only girls there?
7.
Oh, I see.
All in all in the whole program, I don't know, uncountable. About a couple hundred, maybe. About 100. Somewhere in there.
Oh, wonderful. So where do you have your studying? Where you go to school? I'm sorry. I must be very...
Wrong.
Wrong. I'm sorry. Where do you have your teaching? Am I, did I say something wrong?
Pardon?
Did I say something wrong? I'm your friend, am I?
Yeah, definitely.
I like you very much. You're my friend for life.
Definitely.
And I would like to go with you and your father and mother to Europe and really enjoy in some beautiful
Sounds
areas.
like a real good idea.
Oh, yes. Definitely would like to do it.
Yes. Right now, though, is this on? Oh,
it's on camera.
There's someplace else I need to go very badly.
I do too.
It's called a facility.
Okay. Okay.
You have 3 people that are going to stain
I
your
want to
seat.
visit John, my best friend at this moment. Either that or
I've
a
got a
large...
French girl named Toilette.
Either that or a redwood tree right
We
about
really
now.
appreciate you, Vuk.
Okay.
Definitely.
So I have to top the camera. Mark, you have very, very particular plates there.
Yes.
What it means is it's your program.
Yeah, it's our, has something to do with the book, as you well know.
I see. Okay, I stay with Mark and Cathy and Kelly. I met Kelly today for the first time, and I really appreciate my 2 days trip to Mark's and Cathy's home. Now I met Cathy, and she had enormous, if I will not know her condition, she's a very bright girl. I mean, you know, her vocabulary and her everything is absolutely superb, and then her, I would say that her IQ is above average, at least 50%. Yes. I could see, even she's 16. What is her condition now, and how you describe that from your scientific point of view?
Kelly's condition has been diagnosed by a number of physicians, and I too have tested her, but she's been tested in a number of institutions professionally by psychiatrists and psychologists, and she suffers from what is known as dissociative identity disorder, or DID. It used to be known as multiple personality disorder. Now it is known as dissociative identity disorder. This disorder is created as a result of severe, repeated trauma, and particularly before age 5. Kelly's trauma base was, of course, sexual trauma, psychological trauma, and physical trauma, and tortures continually all through her childhood. Is suffering from dissociative identity disorder. Part of the symptoms of this disorder are her inability to remember from moment to moment. And in order for her to appear normal, she mirrors anyone that she is in contact with. So they feel very comfortable with her.
So I said to her, for example, I like Discovery Channel.
Yes.
Is that right? And then she said, yes, it's the only thing I'm watching.
Yes, exactly.
You see, there was some particular moment in time. Now I'm recalling that.
Exactly.
Is it called mirror?
It's called mirroring.
I see.
She will mirror your actions, the way you hold your hands, the way you talk. Eventually, she'll even begin to pick up your accent. The disorder itself is most unfortunate, most uncomfortable for the person that suffers from it. But the worst part is it develops into suicidal and homicidal behavior. They become, these people that suffer from DID, in many instances, but not all, become very agitated very easily for things that we don't even know that could agitate them. A word, or a place, or a suggestion, or a thing can set them off, and they become extremely violent, either towards themselves or towards others. Kelly's situation is not without this horrific, terrible symptom. She suffered it many, many times, and that's the reason that she has been maintained in a mental institution for most of her life. She has spent from age 8, she is now 16, she has lived in a mental institution, or in an institutionalized setting.
So what was her life before? She was in NASA Institute?
The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, I hold directly responsible for her condition, because it was they that was developing the programs under some Nazi scientists that were brought to this country under Project Paperclip for the purposes of researching and developing multi-generational incest abuse. Yes. The actual purposes that NASA had for this child, I have no idea. There is no basis for my understanding of what they were going to do with her. There are many people that have suggested maybe they were going to use her as an assassin. Others have suggested that this was a normal thing as a result of the trauma. I can tell you that in many instances, these children develop this antisocial behavior in becoming what you and I would term suicidal or homicidal. In other words, they either want to inflict harm upon themselves or harm upon others for no apparent reason. This type of psychotic condition will not just go away with age. The child must be deprogrammed. The work that would be required of her would take possibly years of recovery and therapy, and a great deal of money. That's the reason that we've gone public with our book. That's the reason that we are in the process of making a documentary film as well as a motion picture, is to recover enough money to help this child through her recovery period. Now, for 8 years, she's been in a mental institution receiving what you and I would consider therapy to some degree, but it is not effective therapy, only because her victimization was so different than that of her mother's, because her mother was not abused by NASA when she was born. Her mother wasn't abused except by her father and her father's associates. Her mother was abused sexually, of course, psychologically and physically, but she was not subjected to the high-tech tortures that Kelly was from the time that she was born all the way up until I rescued she and her mother when she was age 8.
What is your opinion now? You don't need to answer this question because it's very touchy questions. The United States has one of the biggest terrorist act in history. Everything was absolutely fascinating, or a negative way, like I did. I was here with the Oklahoma case. There's a lot of opinions. I spoke with Ted Garrison, who is one of the FBI star, a person who really had the best career in FBI, who quoted there was 2 explosions, and Timothy McVeigh was. Do you believe that Timothy McVeigh was in the mind control?
I have no hard evidence to support my own theory. I've talked to Ted Gunderson on many occasions, and I've spoken with many other really qualified experts who have evaluated what sparse evidences there are available. And Vuk, I can tell you that based on what I have heard, I am left to only believe that Mr. McVeigh is a victim of mind control. But Mr. McVeigh, of course, admitted on camera